But so it's supposed to kind of show your time and whatever right there. And I guess I hope that these things, like it was more the state that I left it when I actually submitted it, because I did a whole test of like the missiles, for instance. Because what's supposed to happen is those missiles, like missile command, if they hit your base, which is anything behind you, like you have 3 shots of those two before your character dies and the game's over. It's better than Care Bears. So, but yeah, and I'll show some of the inner workings here. So now one of the things there that it didn't trigger, but you saw how the quest can be completed out of sequence to win the game. And so, for instance, this area right here, or these guys, the minus this thing, minus the barrier, um, this is my quest counter. So basically, you have there's six quests. Each one of these is tracking each one of those quests. When one of these quests is completed, it goes to these broadcasters, which are listening for its signal to go out. The signal's homogenized out from here, and so this kind of then kills off one of these, and then activates the next one to get that the same signal sent again. Um, and so then once all 6 of these are gone, the game is complete. And so that makes it to where you can kill a tank first, you can do the blocks first. It doesn't matter, um, but you have to do all of them to finish the game. Um, and then these are the block counters essentially. So these are counting each one of the blocks as they go down before giving out the quest over thing. And then let me bring out my projectile here. Okay. And so this one plate actually is like a bunch of plates. Let me go and pull out in the hierarchy. Oop, wrong. Pull up in the hierarchy. Um, where are you? There you are. Okay. So here is the preset, and you can see I have all these different detectors on there. So everything, I mean, all the blocks have an individual sensors and identifiers on there that all have different detectors on my hierarchy there. The missile does too. The missiles is generic, and the enemy tank is generic. Um, but all the blocks are numbered. So so you're gonna have um, basically was that 15 different detectors on there, plus one detector for the tank, plus another detector for the missile. So there's 17 different tiles that are compressed into that preset. And and basically what happens when it hits one of these blocks, it also has a detector on there that sends out the signal to destroy the shot. Although sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. That's game maker's thing, and that's kind of one of the things that can be kind of frustrating. It's like there's this weird message lag that has gone on since 7 basically. It's like sometimes it's like kind of like a slow internet connection. The messages literally just don't make it to the different assets for some reason. So that's why sometimes the shots will go right through, and you'll get multiple hits on one shot. But yeah, and then yeah, I'm sure I'm like yeah, a lot of everyone else has seen that too, and yeah, it's not you, it's Game Maker, and that's really annoying. Um, yeah, and hopefully this gets rectified. And if it gets rectified, then like how this system of projectiles should work like pretty easy, like pretty flawlessly. I mean, even with that timing quirk, you see how it's still the shots were all registering at one point, things like that. I am not going to participate in the Star Atlas one unless something entices me more or I get some kind of stroke of inspiration. Because I don't even really know the game enough to kind of like You know, can't think of anything. This Atari one was kind of like I figured it was a good chance to kind of try out this projectile system. Oh yeah, and this is worth mentioning the tank. What's going on here? Here, I'll make this invisible, and then I'm gonna turn on the visibility of our collider. Okay. So, turn you off. Okay. So what's happening is the player is spawning within this block, and so this is you're using gravity with collisions, so that the moves your tank left to right, um, but how gives it kind of some momentum. You know what I mean, as you're kind of moving it. Let's see, guys, on the coin game. Well, I mean, that was also an earlier version of Game Maker that had less of this lag. Because that was one of the things I remember. I did a test online. I didn't necessarily stream my performance stats, but I was seeing that yeah, there's definitely significantly more network traffic coming from Game Maker now than there used to be. Like before, it was pretty much like nothing. Like it would pretty much would never talk to the server until you updated it. But like now, you kind of see it's like kind of going back and forth for some reason, sending a decent amount of data like all the time. Like it's not a small amount, and relatively speaking, we're talking like up to like 2 megs. It's sending out for absolutely no fucking reason. It seems like, but but either way, so you can kind of see the system here. And see, this is the other thing that the Game Maker does too, because all of this it'll spawn things where they're not supposed to be, and so sometimes like this the tank um, on here would spawn like this, and I wouldn't catch it, and then I go into the game, and then the tank just like shoots out. It was pretty entertaining, but obviously not a desired effect. Um, but either way, I still had fun kind of trying this out. I mean, was really kind of, if anything, a experiment for a projectile system that I've been messing with. And I think some of you probably recall me messing with that a little earlier. Um, that earlier version didn't have as many advanced stuff because it definitely didn't have anything to like stop the shots at the end, like how you're seeing over here on the back end. This is all the enemy shot trackers, and then the back row is the missile trackers. So when the missile makes it back here, basically it would kill. It sends a signal to destroy one of these, and so by the time either one of these gets down to the third one, it sends the signal to kill the player, and that ends the game. So technically, you only have one life. And right here are all my player shot killers. So all these things are just multiple detectors that are meant to detect the player character shots and destroy them. Yeah, I was using health and the death message, and because the explosions work here fine. That's why I didn't even bother hiding some of the stuff in the front, because I mean it's a game about shooting, so like having random explosions go off kind of adds to the motif a little bit, you know. Taking account the yeah, see, like I said, for me on this game in particular, because the explosions kind of add to everything, anyways. The one thing that I was like I was looking to do sound, like I was actually looking to probably put in like some different sounds for the blocks and stuff like that, but like a lot of the sounds just didn't fit, so I'm just like, whatever, I'll leave the sounds out. And at least with this method of controlling the tank, you're not necessarily getting the footstep thing. Like if I made the avatar of the tank, but then also you'd be able to turn it all these different ways. I didn't want that, and I needed to figure a way to be able to attach the cannon without the launcher, without necessarily having to have the player pick it up. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Um, and I've seen on one of Cyber Dragon's streams where he used like a ball cage where they had his character in, and that kind of like got me thinking, or that somewhat method is what I was kind of using with this, except it wasn't a ball. I wasn't going to model the ball. That sounded like a lot of work, and I didn't want to do that much work for that time because this whole thing, it says like 6 days. I pretty much had to work on it because I didn't start it till after the Ragnarok one, and then just pounded away. But yeah, it was fun enough times, and like I said, I figured it would be kind of neat to just kind of give a quick breakdown of some of the mechanics that were going on here. And of course, too, like the missile, you can see there's some hidden tiles here, which are the what's it called, the shot destroyers and things like, or the message to destroy the missile when it is hit. And I think these are little tiles. Yeah. So I didn't necessarily. I wanted to keep some of the logic like kind of center, so that way that signal lag might be minimized. So what we got here in these transparent things, this is actually the shot, the enemy shot triggers. And so you have the I'm calling the trigger, which is one platform that goes kind of longer back and forth, and then you have the broadcasters. They're also on platforms too, but they're doing a different rate, shorter. And so this is what randomizes like when the enemy is actually firing. And to a certain degree, the missiles have this a similar system. It's just a little more linear. So here you have our bomber, and this is the actual spawner. This is our detector, and what it detects. Where did you go? This one. There you go. And so this is what this detector is looking for. So when those two come together, it launches a missile from the lower spawner. And I also kind of left the speaker message on there to kind of prompt the player too. So like it's hard to read, but what it says on there is missile detected when it actually fires. When Game Maker actually functions properly. And then here is our bomber destroyer right there. So when that platform gets all the way over to there, that one destroys it. Hey, Wet Noodle, welcome. I was just kind of going over some of the particulars of my Atari Game Jam entry, and basically super condensed, fast version of how to make projectile system in the sandbox to shoot shit. Someone likes shooting stuff, and that's one of the things the Sandbox hasn't let us do up to this point. And so when they're like presets are back, I'm like, this means I could probably shoot shit. And so that's what I wanted to do with this, and then how at one point I'm like, this has to be a game at one point, and I have to figure out how to track that. And so I was kind of going over some of that things, those finer points. And actually battle rights and purposes, because I mean this is on like the full land, right, in terms of like the 90 whatever by 90 whatever, and luckily I was able to get the signals to work, because I know like at first this map was longer, like so I did have the player tank more back here, but then I noticed if your enemy tank wasn't in line of sight, like to where that loader, like it just wouldn't load, and so like the tank would just be stuck, because once again it's almost like the Game Maker level of detail filter just wouldn't load stuff out far, including the logic, so it just kind of broke it. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you have a experience that you're making that's spread out quite a bit. You almost have to kind of like make relays. Or like how, in this instance, because it's just like one big open land, it's almost like best to kind of like center your logic So that way, like wherever your player character is spawning, there's a certain radius that can kind of reach both all the way to this side and to this side, or else like things might not work. That's pretty obnoxious. That's one of those things that at one point, like on Half Dork stream, maybe I'll ask about, since he has a little inside track there. I might actually be able to complain at one point about something to do about it. But in the meantime, that's why I was saying here, like our quest tracker system in particular. That's why I kept that front and center. It's obviously a crucial one. And then to the shot triggers for our enemy tank, since it's going to be going back all the way back and forth across the whole land. So it can cause complications. Yeah, little dissection of a sandbox shooter. Like I said, I'm not sure who else has done a legit shooting system in Sandbox yet, but I know this has to be one of the first ones. Now, there's been ranged attacks. I'm not talking like animation hacks with the avatar. This is, like I said, actual projectile system. And so, if you want to make one on your own, use those platforms. Use platform preset. Spawn it from the asset spawner. You just gotta set up your collisions and destroying your shots, which is all kind of standard fanfare for the most part. So yeah, figured it'd be cool to give a little tour of that one.